Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So today, part of the noise, I still got the car on because I want to have the AC running for a little bit because I'm going to be doing an update to an old video. So it's a little bit more of a rough setup, a little bit more of an impromptu kind of thing. But I have, or should have, everything that I need to show you kind of my current, oh boy, you're rattling, my current in-car voiceover recording setup, even though I haven't had to do that in a while. But I did a couple videos on kind of the whole recording in your car topic a long time ago, and since then everything has changed. I have multiple types of upgrades and various different experiences and trial and error and all that kind of stuff. So I think I have a more easy to understand and probably a better quality setup now. Obviously I don't have it plugged in at this moment, but the things that I have that are going to be for the in-car voiceover setup, one of them is obviously the Fifine microphone that I've done multiple reviews. Links will be in the description. Mostly just because this is an all-in-one system with a surprisingly good audio quality. Also, it's an inexpensive microphone, so normally when you're bringing stuff on the road with you, you're bringing stuff that is normally just meant for auditions or possibly 1 or 2 line pickups, or maybe like temporary stand-in kind of audio. You're not going to be bringing your expensive stuff, a huge mixer, your laptop, a couple $1,000 microphone. You're not going to be doing that normally because you don't know what's going to happen on the road. You don't want anything to get stolen. You don't want to get anything to lost or broken. So normally I recommend something that's good, but something that you will not be crying over losing. Also, I'm in kind of a construction area, but all the construction is inactive right now. Nobody's building anything right now because it's like 7 o'clock. So if the light changes, that's why it's really late. But that also meant that this area was going to be pretty quiet. So it'd be a perfect test for this. But yeah, so we got that, and we have it attached to one of these friction arms. Basically, it's got a little clamp, and then you just tighten it, and then it, doesn't go anywhere. So this is basically the entire mic setup. This is going to be attaching to our steering wheel, which, yes, I will be turning the car off to make sure that everything is a lot more quiet and rigid, and you can obviously still hear some rumbling and stuff like that. But this also gives you a pretty good idea of what the car is going to sound like, and then what it's going to sound like when everything is off, and how much better that's going to be. Hopefully, fingers crossed. So there we go. And because the friction arm has a little clamp, they just tighten it. It tightens perfectly to your steering wheel. So now all we have to do is position the Fifine, which again, the actual control knobs are on the back. I really wish that wasn't a thing. We're going to be positioning that like so, and then just put it wherever you feel like it should be, and then just tighten this until it's pretty much not going to be going anywhere. It's not going to be perfectly like solid, not going to be like a gooseneck or a tripod, but it's pretty good. It's going to hold the mic where it needs to be. The only other things that you're going to be needing are headphones, which I have my backup pair of headphones, and the cable plus an adapter dongle. Now, again, I do not have any Android phones. I know everyone always asks about Android devices, and I don't and have never had any Android phones, so I'm never able to say that. I'm never able to actually tell you what you can and can't use. However, what I do know is that this cord plugs right into the microphone, and the microphone gets all of its power from the device, and my iPhone has been more than capable of powering the device while also getting clean audio. So I would imagine if you have a modern, contemporary Android smartphone, that it should be able to do the same thing. There are some, I do have some cables, not with me, but there are some that go from this mini USB, it's not the micro USB, it's the mini USB, to Thunderbolt or Lightning, USB-C. So, and I know that that has worked with this microphone on my iPad. So my iPad has Thunderbolt / USB-C, and this microphone has gone from USB mini to USB-C and has been totally fine. So if your phone has USB-C, then having the kind of cable that is USB-C on one end and USB mini on the other, you should be fine. I will have a link to one of those cables also in the description, but I cannot promise anything, but I don't see any reason that it wouldn't work. So yes, now we are going to plug in the phone, the cable into the, let me adjust this so I can see it. There we go. Into the microphone. Also, one thing you're definitely gonna have to have is the adapter, this little like extra spacer adapter that comes with the, I don't know why you're doing that. Okay, that comes with the microphone. So, because otherwise this cable, the way it plugs in, it's not going to fit. So if you just have an adapter that would normally work on the friction arm, it's not going to work because it's just not going to be able to reach it. So make sure that you have the dongle with the Fifine microphone, which I don't remember the number or the name of it. So I'm just going to keep calling it Fifine or Fifine, because despite the fact that that's not actually its name, apparently it's Fine. I've always said Fifine, and I'm going to continue saying that because that's how I roll. Next thing, we're just going to grab in our headphones. I'm going to be plugging these into the bottom. You don't have to have like big studio monitoring headphones. You can have like little earbuds instead, as long as they plug in with one of these 3.5 millimeter headphone jacks. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to monitor yourself, which you definitely want to be able to monitor yourself, because again, if you're going to be in your car, you're not in your studio, you're not in a treated environment, so you need to be very hyper aware of any noises that are going to be happening outside of the car, any traffic noise, anything that maybe you didn't hear but the sensitive microphone is going to pick up. You need to be hyper aware of that, so that if you do need to re-record, you can re-record immediately rather than listening back to it or when the client says, yeah, there was a whole bunch of noise on it. So now that we got these things, now I need to turn the camera off, plug this into it, and then we'll see what kind of difference it is. And I also need to turn the AC off, which is going to be freaking miserable. But I'm very used to sweating in my booth by this point, so nothing's going to change, really. Alrighty, and now I'm gonna have to back up a little bit because I think the mic is technically set all the way down, but it's still a little hot. So I'm gonna try not to blow any loud audio directly into the microphone. That is one of the caveats to this microphone, is that what I'm hearing in my headphones isn't exactly the same as what I'm getting in my phone, but that can be easily alleviated by the fact that I would normally be using something like Twisted Wave or any of the other like actual audio recording apps that actually shows me the waveform. But right now, obviously, I'm just using my camera. So I can't actually see how the audio is going. But I did a little bit of a test. It seems like it's fine. But yes, so now we are listening to the Fifine inside of my car. I haven't put up anything in the car. There's no sound blankets. There's no whatever the sun shields. There's nothing in the back seat. This is just the car as is. So which normally I would actually put up something in the windshield, but actually this is fine for the most part. This is not that big a deal because it's a relatively small car. Now, if it was something like an SUV or a truck, maybe it might be different if it had like more space and more room. Also, the roof in here is one large curve. It's not flat walls, it's not 90-degree angles, it's not sharp corners. It's a pretty round, smooth surface, so there's not going to be a lot of standing waves other than maybe the window, in the passenger side. Other than that, there's not a lot. Now I'm going to give you a little bit of silence. There is a little bit of traffic noise on the other side of these buildings because there's, a pretty active highway, about 200-300 feet away on the other side of these buildings. So we're going to go ahead and listen for that. We can kind of hear it a little bit, but it's so light, it's so small. This is totally fine for an audition. If I had to do an audition, just bump the cable. That is another thing that this is, because all of these cables are plugged directly into the microphone, into the same body, this is incredibly sensitive. So what I definitely suggest is, like hooking them on something or hooking them around something so you're not touching the cables. But, also, you could also just not touch them. But yeah, this would be totally fine for an audition. I would, however, let the client know, and if it came through my agent, let my agent know that this is my mobile setup, that this is not my actual audio, that this is what I'm just working with because I'm on the road. This would give them, an idea or an example. One thing to definitely have is always have a raw audio sample file on hand, like in Dropbox or Google Drive or something like that, so that you can also send a raw audio sample of what your studio sounds like if they need it. Letting them know that this is not what my studio sounds like. I'm on the road right now. This is my on-the-road setup, but this is what my studio would sound like. So here's the performance, here's the audition, but here's what my studio would sound like. So they can kind of like piece the two together, and that would give them more than enough to decide whether or not they would want to work with you. You could put up things like sound blankets up in the windows, sound blankets hanging over seats. You can partially roll down windows, put some blankets on that and roll them back up so you got something hanging over here if your car needs that. But for the most part, you shouldn't really need it that much. Maybe if you were working with an extremely sensitive microphone, this one is not that sensitive. It is a cardioid, but it's not, it's not incredibly sensitive of microphone. It does kind of cut off some high end and some low end, which is very common for USB mics. But that's really just going to be something that you're going to have to gauge for yourself. If you did get this microphone, you'd have to test in your car, what kind of noise do you hear? That's another thing. Always make sure that you test the stuff that you're going to be traveling with. If you're going to be on the road and you're bringing an on-the-road kit, it better not be the first time you use it is when that you need to use it. You need to, if you put together a kit for doing on-the-road auditions, on-the-road voiceover, test it at your house. Test it in your car. Test it wherever, is the closest analog to where you would probably be testing it. So, for example, if you're going to be, going and spending time in a hotel and you're bringing your on-the-road kit, find the room in your house that either has the most reflection or would closest fit the kind of size and treatment level of a hotel room, and then test it in there. What are you going to have to do? Are you going to have to bring any moving blankets with you? Is the first thing that you're going to have to do, go and find comforters, which, for the most part, it really is. But just, so you're aware and you already know what your game plan is the second, you see a notification, you see the email that you need to do an audition, or you have a file that you have to send. So that's what you need to do. Same thing with in your car. Just get in your car at home, put up your setup, test it, see how well it works, see what else you need to add to your kit. I definitely suggest having a kind of duffel bag or a backpack or something like that, something that you keep your on-the-road voiceover kit with you. Whether you put it in the suitcase that you always take, if it has like a very special compartment or area of the suitcase that you don't normally store stuff in, and you dedicate just to your on-the-road system, leave it in there. Just make sure that this is the suitcase that you always bring, and you double check to make sure it's in there before you leave, but making sure that it's just stored away in there, and also that it's not stuff that you're going to need in the studio, because it does kind of add to frustration and double checking and time if all of this was stuff that you also need to be in the studio. So, you don't want to have to take stuff down and tear down your professional setup at home just to put some stuff in your bag to take it on the road. So anyway, there you go. Again, I will have tons of links in the description. I would say this setup, the microphone is about $50, give or take. A friction arm you can get for like $15. These headphones are like $40, $50. The adapter is maybe like $20. That's kind of it for the most part. It's not that complicated. And you don't need another thing to hold your phone. You can just hold your phone in your hand, or whatever. You can just put it on the dashboard or put it in your lap, whatever. That's not something that you need to worry about too much. But yeah, that's going to be it. So thank you guys for watching. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. Totally fine. Subscribe if you're new. Bell for notifications. And leave down in the comment section below. Like to see me cover any other topics or update any other videos. Something that might be too old, and then I will update it and throw out the old one. Probably keep the old ones around, but I'll just, if it's in a playlist, I'll make sure to move the new one in the playlist. Yeah, it's going to be it. And until next time, peace.